Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're playing some good old mid-shadow, some pretty classic style mid-shadow to be honest. Prince of Catacomb, Disciple of Silence, No Steris, just the very generic kind of build that I've used a fair bit. It does really well for my missions when I'm doing them, and I know I've covered a fair bit in the past, but we are running out of decks now for a while since there haven't been any major changes. There are no meta shifts. We've covered most of the big meta decks that we could. There really isn't a lot to do. There's not a lot of memes coming out at the moment either, so there isn't really much to cover there that would be interesting that we haven't already done. So really I'm just covering things that I like and keeping this daily kind of grind going for you guys. I do plan on covering some other games here and there over the course of the next couple of weeks at least, so do look forward to that. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So for our first game we are going up against Havencraft. Honestly, this deck does very well at storming the early game, which is really what you want to do, just flood and flood and flood. I'm sure anyone who has played mid-shadow knows that that's really its strong suit. This is also quite a powerful deck for Unlimited no matter what. Shadow tends to be nearly always a tier 1 deck in Unlimited. Mainly because it's got so many good cards for mid-shadow that it would really be hard to even change or nerf anything to a point where it would be, you know, unrecognizable. That would really be the only way to do it. So starting off with that early lurching drop is really the best play. Going for, of course, the Disciple of Silence immediately after seems to be a really nice way to at least follow up. More Requiem. And a Globe of Stairways. That's actually not too bad. We can handle this quite well. Prince Catacomb should be able to quite nicely stick this board. While not getting a lot of damage in, setting up an early board is one of the more important things to do. Unfortunately, we did end up losing that, which was a bit disappointing. I didn't want to lose lurching there. We could have actually took full advantage of it, so I'm a little disappointed that that's the one that got hit. At least on the bright side, we can kind of use this to our advantage to strike where the iron is hot. Get some good damage in. Forbidden Ritual, that one's a rough one. I hate losing my almost entire board to that. On the bright side, at least we got to keep that around. So if we get lucky on this Lady Grey, which I don't even think we really need to get lucky, based on the sense that they banished a heap of things, it should pretty much guarantee Lurching Corpse summon. So we're going to be able to, of course, kill that. We're going to heal for 3, and then we're going to wipe out their ambush. Something Shadow is always really good at. And then really it's just developing the board again to take advantage of Gremory potentially next turn. So Forbidden Teaching. This does mean they can't play any followers. So we're looking very positive. And a second City of Gold. Not really a problem. Gremory should hopefully open up, not quite lethal, but enough pressure that it's going to be very hard to recover. Especially since we're going to pretty much mass draw off this. Even another Forbidden Ritual wouldn't be that threatening. Especially now. So it's no shock that, you know, they gave up after that point. That turn 7 swing is usually the biggest turn for Shadow. Next up, we have a Dragon matchup. So going up against Dragon can be a little trickier. It's still a very strong deck in Unlimited. Blood, Dragon, Shadow typically reign the top 3 spots, although Portal definitely has slided itself in there nicely with its Unlimited. So their artifacts really do become a problem. To be honest, the Unlimited meta, anything can be viable. It's really just a matter of what is more oppressive. When all decks are oppressive, some still do usually stand out as the most. And I always found Mid-Shadow was definitely one of the most oppressive decks. It can really recover from almost any point in the game. Early, mid, late, it's very hard to full counter Shadow unless they themselves draw poorly. See, as you can see, just instant concedes on the early game once you, of course, can take things out. No real surprise. We have got a couple more we can look at, so we'll take a look at those. I had completely forgot the Dragon matchup. It's actually extremely early concede due to the fact that, you know, once you're oppressed with the Belenus, it's very hard to really recover without losing everything. At least we have a couple of blood matchups, so, well, worst case, we'll look at both of them. I think This one though was reasonably half decent for us. We do have a strong early game with double Skull Beast and Prince Catacomb. So getting that early Skull Beast out should help us. I did manage to go 4-0 while completing some missions with this deck. It was very, very quick and easy. So I decided to take advantage of it. I wanted the draw there. We're going to go probably for Fran anyway next turn, since we don't really have another play. Although it would be better for me to hold on to the Fran's Attendant until next turn and use it with Prince of Catacomb, but I really wanted to get something on board so I had some potential way to deal with an enemy threat, especially when it's blood. Since there are a few different unlimited bloods floating around now, I would say at least 3. There are some Mecha Blood variants, there are some Vengeance Blood variants, and there's still Dark Feast Bat variants. Of course, there are also some that kind of middle in between, but they tend to be the most prominent 3 that I've gone up against. Now, Catacomb did manage to stick okay, and going up against Vania, that should be pretty reasonable. We do have the Cerberus for next turn with the Evo, and really that should sustain us quite nicely. So this is definitely an aggro bats list. Typically one of my favorite decks, honestly, aggro bats. Right up there with Daria is some of my favorite to play. It's a pity aggro bats really doesn't hold its own as well anymore. Neither does Daria, which is a little disappointing. They're all right, but they're definitely not mid-shadow level of good at the moment. So I expect to lose the Cerberus. That was obviously going to be a pretty fair trade-off. We're definitely in a rough spot here though with the Vera. It coming down like this makes it very difficult for us to kind of counter, since we don't run any real way to get rid of it. At least the Death's Breath can kind of buy us some time. I decided to keep all my skeletons healthy since I didn't really want to lose too much here on a big kind of board flood turn, especially going into next turn with Gremory. So I did need at least the one board spot free. But we got a little bit of a better play with the Demon Lord. We're going to be able to wipe this board out pretty neatly. So we should be able to maintain 2 zombies and the Demon Lord itself. So that's a very good stabilization. Although we did leave up the 1-1, not that that's a big issue. Another armored bat play. No Evo points though, which is a good positive for us. And a unsurprising concede. I mean, we did have the Gremory in hand anyway, so really that would have been a big swing. So if you guys are newer players or even some veteran players and you're just looking for something in Unlimited that will always be extremely solid, just build some of the mid-shadow engine. You don't even need to build everything in this one that I'm using. I always recommend the, of course, single Gremory since you can run one of. Spirit Maiden, not 100% necessary, but pretty much everything else, if you've got that structure out, you can pretty much adapt to any meta in Unlimited as far as new cards coming out. I don't see them completely shutting down mid-shadow next expansion. It probably won't be for another 2 or 3 before they really change things up and mid-shadow drops right out. But until then, we'll have to wait and see, as, of course, it's really hard to nerf what makes mid-shadow so good now. If they hit the Demon Lord on its own, it could definitely ruin the deck to a point, but then things like Arcus Shadow and stuff might just pick up and slack a little bit, or some other variation. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You'll find a link to the deck in the description below. Until next time, guys.